Today, we are going to tally down our choices for the top 10 actors who actually did it on set. For the sake of this list, we will be examining the most scandalous instances in which performers conducted unsimulated, amorous acts for the purpose of a film. Number 10. Kerry, Fox and Rylance, Intimacy 2001. This 2-hour film has a name like that, so it should come as no surprise that the main protagonists will spend a lot of time becoming intimate with one another. It turns out that very little of it was staged, which is even more contentious than the fact that it was originally produced. It is said that the well-known French filmmaker Patrice Chéreau exerted a great deal of pressure to achieve genuine reactions, which resulted in a great deal of physical friction between the sheets. It is important to keep in mind that both Fox and Rylance were involved in sustained relationships at the time. Over the years that have passed, Rylance has stated that he was uneasy about the extent to which he and Fox went in those sequences. Nevertheless, it is tragic that they will be preserved on film anyhow. Number 9. The whole cast. Shortbus 2006. The film begins with some graphic self-pleasure, and from that point on, it only gets better and more explicit. There is something that is rated R after practically every single scene, regardless of whether the characters are alone, with another person, or in a large film altogether. Additionally, none of it could have been funny because doing so would have rendered the film's purpose meaningless. After all, the entire concept behind Shortbus was to portray a more cinematic expression of a romantic relationship between two people. There is no doubt that they gave their whole commitment to the role, especially in the final moment. Although we are unable to reveal what takes place, you should take our word for it. This is not a film that you should see with your parents. Number 8. Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Gainsbourg's body doubles. Antichrist 2009. From the very first scene, it is abundantly evident that the affection that is depicted in this film is not the kind that can be faked. Let's just say that it can become quite personal and close to the bone. Instead, the only question that has to be answered is whether or not that is indeed Willem Dafoe's equipment. What is the response? Yes, without a doubt. During the period in question, both he and his co-star were in contented marriages, hence they utilized body doubles for the more sexually charged sequences. Despite this, the content that you see on the screen is indeed quite real. This is not the case with the faces you imagine. On the other hand, to be fair, the mountain of sexual stuff is not even the most shocking aspect of this surrealist horror movie. Number 7. Kristine and Juliet Graham. Alice in Wonderland 1976. Within the context of this R-rated fairy tale, Wonderland is recast as a medium through which Alice might investigate her sexuality. The movie was first conceived as a hardcore feature film, and it even went so far as to cast several well-known actors from the adult film industry. However, even though such aspects were slightly toned down for the general distribution, there are still a great deal of unfiltered love scenes. Kristine, who is Alice herself, is especially noteworthy. Number 6. Bill Paxton, Taking Tiger Mountain 1983. This micro-budget science fiction picture was shot in black and white, without sound, and mostly included the participation of townspeople from adjacent places. This was done to set the stage. When all of this is taken into consideration, it is not really that surprising to learn that they did not spend a lot of money on body doubles. Consequently, this is how we came to have a movie in which you witness a younger version of Bill Paxton experiencing a pretty straightforward form of pleasure. The way he describes it, they simply went out and met some girls and asked them if they would be willing to appear on video without any clothing on. Because they agreed, the rest, as they say, is history. After that, in 2016, the movie was re-released under the title Taking Tiger Mountain Revisited after it had been repaired. Currently, you can take pleasure in Bill Paxton's method acting in all of its 4K splendor. Number 5. Kieran O'Brien and Margot Stilley. 9 Songs 2004. This scene, which took place on the very first day of filming, included the two stars meeting up and kissing one another. When the real graphic material started, it wasn't until after lunch that it started. There is no way to sugarcoat the situation. We're discussing the kind of stuff that necessitated them to wear condoms. Without taking into account the highly contentious aspects of the movie, you have to give O'Brien and Stilley credit for their ability to be so game. Even though the film only lasts for 70 minutes, they let the camera reveal everything. To the extent that 9 Songs was presented with an initial rating of X in Australia, would you mean everything completely? Regardless of what you think about this love story, you can't possibly argue that it is devoid of passion. That much is certain. Number 4. Claude Savigny and Vincent Gallo. The Brown Bunny 2004. To complete the production of this film, Vincent Gallo wore a variety of headwear. Not only was he the lead actor, but he was also the director, the writer, and the producer. Not only was he the subject of some one-sided love-making from his co-star, Claude Savigny, but he was also the recipient of some infamy. This extraordinarily frank moment, regardless of whether or not it was warranted, squeezed all of the oxygen out of the marketing campaign for the movie. For what it's worth, Savigny has defended the movie and complimented Gallo on the sensitive way in which he approached the subject matter. However, she also stated that it was the most difficult thing she had ever done in her life. Even though it caused a lot of controversy when it was first released, The Brown Bunny has subsequently been re-examined and found to be a devastating evaluation of sexual exploitation. Number 3. Robert Pattinson, Little Ashes, 2008. If there is one thing that can be said with absolute certainty, it is that no one can accuse Robert Pattinson of falsifying a performance. Take, for example, his work in the film Little Ashes, which was released in 2008. At the time of his signing on to portray the role of Salvador Dali, the script demanded that he become quite comfortable with his own body. However, Pattinson was not pleased to merely act it out the way it was. To elaborate further, he stated that pretending to be someone or anything like that doesn't work. To preserve the integrity of the film, Pattinson allowed the camera to capture him while he was giving it his best. Unfortunately, despite his hard efforts, Little Ashes was not able to avoid being destroyed by the criticism of its audience. It seems that this kind of merchandise does not always sell. Number 2. Melvin Van Peebles, Sweet Sweetback's Bodice Song, 1971. It is not an exaggeration to claim that this film would not have been produced if it did not contain all of its seductive visual elements. In other words, filmmaker Melvin Van Peebles did not have the time or the financial resources to create fake love scenes. Instead, he took responsibility for all the uncensored actions that were performed by Sweetback, and there are a lot of them. Van Peebles developed a sexually transmitted disease as a result of the large number of sexually transmitted diseases. Nevertheless, he was able to turn that tragedy into cold, hard cash by successfully submitting a claim for an accident that occurred on the job. Van Peebles was able to complete the film on schedule with the assistance of the money that he got via workers' compensation. Talk about how success may be found in the most unexpected locations. Number 1. Sienna Miller and Hayden Christensen, Factory Girl, 2006. These two lovebirds appear to have a great time working together on the set of this biopic if the stories are to be believed. Because their romantic scenes are so convincing, this is very clear. One could argue that it is too compelling. Early reports suggested that Miller and Christensen were not always acting during personal scenes in the film Factory Girl, which had not yet been released in theaters at the time by that point. The official publication did little but add gasoline to the flames, as many fans discovered that their plot might be described as weirdly passionate. The PR for Miller stated that it was simply exceptionally good acting, but an insider confirmed that everyone's suspicions were correct. Christensen and Miller had done it on tape. For the most part, it appears that love and cinema are both fair. Would you like it? Don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel for more interesting and informative videos.